Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's track guide for the IR04. We are going to a new track. We are at Fuji, for what should be an interesting week of racing. The lap is actually more interesting than I thought it was going to be. It's a little bit more difficult, even than I thought it was going to be. I haven't raced a lot at Fuji, though, so I didn't really have a ton of expectations. But I think that racing can actually be really, really good or really, really messy. We'll see which one we get. I kind of think it's going to be a combination of the two. But this is also a full length track guide because we've never been here before. So, anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the lap. Before we dive into the details, I do just want to say if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so now or maybe even later on. It's super helpful for me as I try to grow this channel. Also, like likes, comments, all that kind of stuff are super helpful as well. Also, check out the description below. It's got a bunch of great links, including telemetry for this lap on Garage 61 to help you compare your telemetry to mine. There are links to an F4 league there if you're interested in joining that league. My Twitch channel if you want to watch me on Twitch, and then there are a couple affiliate links. One code for Muradness.com if you're looking to get Muradness gloves and send it with those, worth 2/10 every lap, as well as Next Level Racing. We have an affiliate link. If you click that affiliate link and make your purchase on Next Level Racing, if you are looking for a sim rig, we get a little bit of kickback for that. And I'm just going to put any money that we get from the use of those affiliate links back into the channel to make things better for you guys. But let's go ahead and check out the track conditions and then dive into the lap corner by corner. Let's check out some track information. First of all, there's a rules tab that tells you about the track limits around the track. I would familiarize yourself with this because knowing the track limits will give you an advantage over opponents who do not know the track limits. And there are a bunch of places where you can extend the track beyond the red and white curbing into just the red curbing, so that will give you an advantage going wheel to wheel or hunting for track time. As for the track conditions, we have a 39 degrees Celsius track, 22-degree air temperature, and moderate usage at 46%. If these numbers go down, I would expect faster lap times. If these numbers go up, I would expect slower lap times. As for the lap times themselves, we did a full tank of fuel and we did this at 141.357. I will say, having done laps here a couple of seasons ago for Little Wings, uh, 40s, 39s, even 38s definitely possible with the right track conditions. So do keep that in mind that this might be actually on the slower end of the spectrum when we're looking at track conditions mixed with this track for this week. It's hard to say what we're going to get, but this was generated from the official session. So this is what we got. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this lap corner by corner. Turn 1 gives us a very hard braking zone because it comes at the end of this incredibly long main straight. We need to do a ton of hard braking in a straight line before we aim to dive into the apex. We'll start braking at the beginning of the entry curbing and wait for that later turn-in point. We'll trail off the brakes as we head towards the apex, and we're looking to catch a later apex, which means a later turn-in, and that allows us to do two things. It allows us to brake a little bit deeper into the corner, which means that we carry more speed off of this really long main straight into the corner. And secondly, it allows us to get back on throttle pretty aggressively as we get to the apex, which means we get a nice strong exit. Win-win. You can cut all the way into the bollard at the apex. I am a little bit off that this lap, but if you really want to run the proper apex, you want to get as tight into that bollard as possible. Keep in mind that as we start heading towards the apex, we start heading downhill, so if we didn't get enough braking done in a straight line here, we'll easily push out wide and miss this apex even more than I do here. So keep in mind that that main braking phase, where we're really heavy on brakes for a sustained period of time, is the most important part about this corner. Getting that right will slow us down enough to properly turn in late and hit this late apex for the corner so we can get back on throttle aggressively on the exit. On exit, we want to use as much of the available road as possible, going all the way out to the curbing. If we don't feel the need to do that, then it means we could probably be a little bit more aggressive on throttle at the apex. Turn 2 is this little kink, and the main thing is to just keep the car to the right-hand side of the track approaching turn 3. Turn 3 is a very fast momentum corner. The main thing here is we just need to blip the brakes a little bit. It might just be a lift in better track conditions. We'll blip the brakes right around the 50 board and ease the car into the apex. As you can see, we cut right through the bollard at the apex here. It doesn't give you any contact. It's not a physical object in the game, so use as much of it as you can. If you're not getting an off track at the apex, then you're in good shape. Use as much curbing as possible. On the exit, the main thing is we want to just ease back on throttle and keep the car in control, avoiding any sliding or anything like that. Sliding is going to overheat our tires. It's going to scrub away that momentum. So the main thing here is maintaining the momentum. You can see we're not downshifting or anything like that. We're really just trying to maintain our speed through the corner. On the exit, you can actually use all of the red and white curbing and even go out to the red curbing. As long as your left tires are in contact with that red curbing, you're in good shape. On this particular lap, I didn't have to run it all the way out there. It means I probably could have carried a little bit more speed through the apex, but this also sets us up a little bit better to open up turns 4 and 5, which are upcoming. So there is a balancing act here of keeping your tires happy as well as maintaining speed. But my main focus here is just keeping the car balanced. We can treat turns 4 and 5 as a double apex single corner, even though they are two separate corners. The main thing here, again, is really focusing on keeping the car smooth and balanced and avoiding too much tire scrub. If we come out of here scrubbing the tires too much or pushing too hard, it's going to make turn 6 very, very difficult. For turn 4, we're just going to carry our speed through the corner. We can stay full throttle all the way through turn 4, but when we get to turn 5, we're going to need to lift just a little bit to help get the car rotating without scrubbing and pushing the car out too wide. That said, you can run the car out pretty wide at turn 5 on the exit and wider than I do here. I just found that for me, I was having a hard time getting back over to the right-hand side of the track for turn 6 when I did that. I probably need to strike a balance of how much I'm pushing on exit here to make that a little bit more comfortable. But that kind of plays into the focus for me coming out of turn 5, which is setting up for turn 6. Turn 6 is really, really tricky, so the smoother entry we have for turn 5, the better off we're going to be. And that's really what my focus is exiting turn 5, setting up for a nice clean turn 6. You can play around with using fourth gear like I did here or staying in fifth gear. That's really up to you. I played around with both and there wasn't a huge time difference in between the two. But again, through all of this, we want to keep the tires in a good temperature window. We want to not overheat the tires. So our goal here is to keep things smooth and steady and the car nice and balanced while avoiding tire scrubs so we can have a nice easy braking zone for turn 6. Turn 6 is tricky for a couple of reasons. First, we're cresting this hill as we come into the braking zone, so it can be very easy to lock the tires. We're also heading downhill towards the apex of the corner, so it can be very easy to push wide and miss the apex, or push even further wide if we carry too much speed in and not be able to stay on track on exit. As mentioned previously, this means we really need to be smooth here. That means not braking too hard or being too harsh with our steering input, but also setting up for this entry by being smooth through turn 5, as previously mentioned. As we come to the top of the hill, we can start to brake right around the 50 board, and the idea here is to get a little bit of straight line braking before we start trailing off the brakes and heading towards the apex. And we head towards the apex pretty early because, again, the car is going to want to push out wide. As we get to the apex, we can get back on throttle fairly aggressively, and we want to use all of the available track and push all the way out to the exit curbing to help us maintain as much momentum as possible. Once again, this corner is very, very tricky. If you find yourself locking up or missing the apex too much, try to just slow yourself down and really feel like you're nice and smooth and gentle on everything. Just be smooth, okay? That's the goal here. Be smooth and you will prosper. Turns 7, 8, and 9 are all essentially just flat out kinks. The only thing I will say is on this lap, I don't go to the turn 9 apex, but normally you'd want to go to the turn 9 apex to run the shortest line possible heading towards turn 10. Turn 10 is another hard braking zone, and it's a tricky one because people are definitely going to send it up the inside. There are going to be overtakes happening here. I think this is where a lot of the carnage is also going to happen. That said, we're coming off of a really fast, flat out section of track, and we're going into a really tight, chicaney kind of hairpin thing. So our goal here is to carry as much speed in on entry as we can. We're okay being a little bit slow on exit because there isn't a lot of time to get back on throttle in between the turn 10 apex and the turn 11 apex. We can start braking just after we pass the bridge and essentially when we meet up with the 100 board, and we want to be hard on the brakes in a straight line for a sustained period of time before trying to turn in a little bit later. Essentially, you can follow the black marks in the road where the rubber are to figure out where you should be turning in. But again, we're searching for a little bit later apex because we're looking to kind of maximize the speed we're taking and carrying in the braking zone, and then tighten up and kind of set ourselves up for the exit out of turn 11. We're getting back on throttle right at the apex, but once again, from essentially the apex of turn 10 through the apex of turn 11, we are focusing on the exit out of turn 11 and our run through turn 12. So that little burst isn't that important. Our main thing here is good braking zone and staying tight to that apex, not blowing the turn 10 apex. This is also, once again, another key overtaking opportunity. So practice running the defensive line on the inside or even running the attacking line on the inside and trying to figure out how you're going to defend and overtake here because this is a really good opportunity on this track. And knowing how to perform on both of those racing lines is key to successful overtakes and defenses. We kind of already covered this, but turn 11 is all about the exit. So the burst that we get in between turn 10 and 11 isn't really that important to us. We just really want to make sure that we run a nice tight line in turn 11 so that we can get a good exit out of it heading into this next section of track. All you should need is a nice little lift as we head towards the apex, hold on to the apex nice and tight, and then as we exit the apex, slam that throttle and send it. Turn 12 is easily flat just to open up for turn 13. Turn 13 starts off a sequence of corners that are all pretty tricky because there's a lot of elevation change. We're heading to apexes as we're cresting hills, so it can be very easy to lose the rear of the car, to get on throttle too aggressively and spin it, to get on brakes too aggressively and spin it. So the key throughout this next section is really just keeping the car smooth. As we head towards the entry curbing, we'll brake just a little bit and head back towards the apex, and then we're letting the car coast and settle in towards the apex and easing back on throttle as we hit the apex and start to crest the hill. Again, if we get on throttle too aggressively here, it can be really, really easy to spin. The other thing that's really easy to happen is if we carry too much speed here, if we get back on throttle too aggressively, we can push out wide as we crest the hill and start to go back down the hill slightly on exit. And we really want to avoid those yellow sausage curbs, which can damage the car or cause us to lose control and go spinning off into nowhere. So The key here, once again, just a nice easy brush of the brakes. Really just let the car settle into the corner and start easing back on throttle gently as we get to and through the apex so that we can navigate this tricky corner safely. Avoiding any sort of sliding or tire scrub is going to help us through this entire section. If we slide too much or scrub too much here, we're going to be in a world of hurt later. Turn 14 is another flat out kink that leads into turn 15. Turn 15 is another one of those tricky corners that I was talking about. We're heading uphill, but the apex of the corner is actually more raised than the outside of the track, so we have negative camber, so we can't open up the corner too much. Otherwise, it's too difficult to get back towards the apex. So we're kind of turning in a little bit early, but we're doing a similar thing that we were in turn 13, where we're braking a little bit and then just kind of letting the car settle and float in towards that apex, not trying to stress the car too much or do too much with inputs here. Because the consequences are pretty similar to turn 13. As we crest this, it can be really easy to lose the car and spin it. You can even see here that I'm doing a little bit of counter steering. And if we push the entry too hard and run wide on exit, there are once again those yellow sausage curbs that can damage the car or just cause us a lot of problems. So again, we're repeating kind of what we want to do. Let's keep the car smooth and settled. Let's not stress the tires too much. Let's keep everything in a nice working temperature window and almost feel slow here because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. All right, and now for the final showdown, turn 16, which is actually a very, very similar, almost carbon copy of turn 15, just going in the opposite direction. We're dealing with negative camber as we're heading to the apex and heading uphill, so it can be difficult to fight our way back to the apex if we open up the corner too much. You can see that the racing line here is actually in the middle of the track based on where the rubber is laid down from those black tire marks. Also, when we crest the hill, if we're too aggressive on throttle, it can be very easy to either push out wide or lose the rear end of the car. So again, we're just trying to keep the car smooth and balanced, ease our way back onto the throttle, really make sure we get a nice smooth exit here and don't have to make any corrections. The other thing I will say is that if you run wide on the exit here, you have two options. Either run over those sausage curbs and hope that you don't damage the car, or go around the sausage curbs and get a slowdown penalty, which I did explore with during these laps. So again, don't stress too much on making up time on the entry. We're heading onto a super long main straight. Our exit here is the most important thing, and a smooth exit and an in control exit is going to be a fast exit. So, our whole mid corner, early corner, braking zone are just setting up for this nice, strong, smooth exit, which is our focus. That's going to propel us down this main straight here at Fuji. Again, the draft is going to be massive here. So, just getting a nice exit here, being close to your opponent in front will give you tremendous opportunities down into turn one. Don't push too hard here for an overtake. Instead, use this long straightaway to do your overtaking. And as always, just thank you so much for the likes, subscriptions, comments, hanging out with me on Twitch. I appreciate you all for doing those things, for interacting with me, letting me know what's working, what's not. I'm doing these for you guys. I don't make any money off of these yet, so it's really just a labor of love right now. But I hope they continue to be useful for you guys. I hope you have a great week of racing. Like I said, it might be a little messy out there, but I think a real key here is just keeping it smooth, consistent, and hitting those marks around Fuji. I think that's the way you're going to do your best around here, avoiding, yeah, some of the chaos just by hitting your marks and staying out of trouble. I think you'll be in good shape. But good luck out there. I hope to see you on track.